Hi Joy, hi everyone. So today I will be giving session on Azure Data Factory, which in turn many of you know like latest technologies that Microsoft has been including for the past few years. Apart from their core products like SSIS, Visual Studio, and SSRS kind of thing. Let me present my screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, from your end, yes.
From my end also, yes.
Okay, fine then. Let me proceed further. So, yeah, the agenda of this meeting is to know how to we start with Azure Data Factory. What is the architecture that is designed for moving the data using Data Factory, and key components that are used along with runtimes, and how the security that can be integrated along with Data Factory, and a small demo how we can move the data between different sources, and lastly how we can use Azure Data Lake in storing data, and also along how that can be useful for us in Dynamics world. So before we start with Azure Data Factory, right? The main key thing that everyone should know is the subscriptions. So many of us know, like we are being provided with Microsoft MSDN enterprise license, but most of us we are not know how actually to use the benefits which is provided by that enterprise license. So that subscription is very useful when we start with these Azure components, or play with Azure components and all. So in order to start with Azure Data Factory, also we should have one subscription that is active apart from developer license that is by default provided with Microsoft. And the roles that are responsible for creating the data factories resources, and then the components that we will be using as sources and destinations. So this is all about the subscription and the role that are available in the Azure. So in order to create a data factory, the owner or the administrator will have the complete privilege on the Azure Data Factory. Like if he is a system administrator, he will have complete access or privilege that he can delete or he can create different data factories for each instance. For example, if we are working in the development, he can create one data factory for development. And if the code has to be moved to further environments like SIT, UAT, pre-prod and prod, then different data factories can be used or created by the administrator. And apart from that, if the user who is working on the data factory, right, he should have a contributor role, data factory contributor role, to access all the resources which are available as part of that resource group. So just to give an introduction about Data Factory, Data Factory is a cloud-based integration which allows us to create and transform the data in the cloud or from on-premise to cloud. We can also create our own workflows to move the data between different sources, between the clouds or from on-premise to clouds. And using Data Factory, we can even build a complex ETL processes which will be very fast, and the destinations and sources that can be accessible, which are available in the Azure. And it also helps us to schedule or create our own pipelines that we build to move these data transformations. So just a simple architecture how we can use Azure Data Factory to move the data from on-premise to Azure cloud. Or we can also see, like how we can move from Azure SQL to Dynamics. In the left side, you can see the files and the databases which are available in the on-premise can be easily used by the data factory, and then we can easily move the data to a data warehouse, or even we can move this data to Dynamics 365. Once this data is available as part of online, like Azure cloud, we can easily use these pipelines or data flows to transform the data which we like in which form we need to, and then we can push the data to different targets. In our case, mostly we will be looking only for Dynamics, right? So I just gave the Dynamics here, but if we want to push it to different sources, yes, obviously we can push it to different sources as well. So the main key components that are used in the data factory, which may, in the demo we can see, like, how to use these things are data sets, pipelines, activities, and then linked sets. So when data sets, so when we talk about data sets, these data sets are nothing but a kind of structure, or we can say a table schema that is predefined in the form of a table that helps the pipeline to get the data. So these pipelines are a group of activities that are responsible for data extraction and data processing, and we can this processing, along with the processing, we can also even push data to the destinations as well. And in activities, right, we have different types of activities that are available in the Azure. Like, we can create our own stored procedure and then execute it, or even we can use Hadoop related components, or we can simply copy data from one source to other destination. Like, there are other activities that are also available. For now, in the demo we can see a detailed look over, like what activities that are available and all. So linked services are nothing but a connection that can be established to a source or to destination to pull data from it. It's like a connection from a source to a target, that without the connection we cannot connect, right? So it's a linkage between the services. Integration runtime. This integration runtime is mainly useful to move the data transformations. Like, once the data is available in a source, and if we want to move data to a destination, for example, if my source is Azure SQL, and if I want to move data to another Azure SQL, both the databases are available as part of online. So we can easily move the data, but the movement of the data will happens only through this these integration runtimes. So if it is a cloud hosted or publicly available, then it's a public connectivity. Otherwise we can say, like, Azure runtime connectivity. And if the database is on premise or privately secured network, if we want to pull data from it, in that times we need to install a separate connection, separate connection from the cloud to get linked to the on-premise database and then move data to the respective destinations. Apart from that, we also have one more integration runtime component called Azure SSIS runtime. This Azure SSIS runtime is nothing but, for example, when we create a packages in on-premise SSIS projects, and if we deploy it to the databases, we will see a component called a catalog, or integration catalog, which is available to deploy our jobs. But if we want to use the same job in Azure, then that time we will have this linkage to the Azure, so that our on-premise SSIS jobs can be deployed directly to the Azure and then use from there. The more details it can we can easily get when we actually do the demo. So now coming to the key vault. Key vault is one of the key component that can be useful across projects widely, because it provides a key security that Microsoft has been giving as part of services. So this key vault are services that are hosted in the cloud, and they will encrypt the data or the passwords which we tend to use in the connections. So this small passwords which we encrypt, right? Those will be called secrets. Then that secrets will not be publicly available either for Microsoft or for any application that is available in the Azure. Only the user who created the key vault can provide the access for a particular application to which it has to use. And this some of the most important benefits that we use by using the key vault is like we can provide the secure tokens to which it can authenticate and then extract from the secret keys, and it can be easily available for us to encrypt and then decrypt as well. So this is how a sample design that we can see how to use the key vault in the Azure Data Factory. So once if I create a key vault and if I store my, for example, I have a SQL database, and I will have definitely username and password to authenticate for it. Instead of giving the password directly in the connection string, I can give the password in. I can create a key vault and then I can give the password in the key vault, which will encrypt that password so that I can use that encrypted password in the connection, so everyone cannot access it directly in the connection. So that a key vault is created, and it using runtime, this will be used as a linked service, right? So once the pipeline, we use this key vault in a pipeline, the integration runtime then will authenticate to the different sources and destinations. So for any questions, if hello.
Yeah, no questions from my Manas. It's good, really.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. So going to the demo, I think the time is very less. I cannot show you how to create the Azure Data Factory for now, but I can definitely guide how we can create it. So when you go to
no problem.
Okay.
Take your time.
Okay.
If required, we will continue like half an hour in the next session. So, but when you give, make sure that it's given in the right way.
Okay, fine.
Don't
then.
worry about the time.
Okay, fine.
We'll
Fine.
continue the demo next time also, not a problem.
Okay, fine then. So in order to work on the data factory, most of us will know we have enterprise license. If you go to my.visualstudio.com, if you go to the subscriptions here, everyone can see they are provided with by default enterprise license. See, this is a Visual Studio Enterprise, and this enterprise license, we have a lot of benefits by using this enterprise. So if we go to the benefit section, so if you go to the benefit section, right, by default, Azure is providing us with monthly 150 credits, which we can use for all the services which Azure is providing. So there is no, kind of giving like, our own debit card or credit card to use the services. By default, we are credited with 150. Since it is a corporate license, we will by default get 10,000 every month. If you use or don't use, that 10,000 rupees will be every month, they will be crediting to us. So when you activate it, it will ask for an agreement, which we should accept the terms and conditions, and then it will provide us with the 10,000 rupees.
Manas, have you not activated before?
I have activated, but just to show, like, since everyone are not sure of like
how can you activate twice?
I thought the page will be opened, the agreement page, just to show that I was just opening, clicking on the activate. Yeah. But for now, I cannot activate it because I have already activated it.
Right.
But many of you people might not get activated. Have it get activated it, and then you can see there is one agreement page that will be opening, for which you need to agree, and then it will redirect you to the Azure. So once you land it to the Azure, don't see these resources because these are I created it. But when you guys open it, there will be everything blank here. You cannot see anything. Like, I mean, the resources will be available, but these resources will not be available for you. And if you go to the notifications, if in the top, if you go it here, you can see the crediting amount will be 10,000 for you guys, if you are first time user. And if you are using it, I think based on your usage, the amount will be keep on reducing and all. So once, since you have created your own account, you can go here and then you can see the permissions. In the first page, I told subscriptions are very important, and apart from that, roles also very important. So now we do have a subscription, like enterprise subscription. And if I want to see the roles which was given by the Microsoft upon creating it, we just need to go and see complete access details here.
Right. So this is common for everybody who will be needing to start working on Azure. Okay, even if you do Azure Logic Apps, you will have to go through the same process. So this is the first time activation of your Azure account that Manas is saying.
Yeah. Okay. So if you go to the classic administrator, you can see this as a service administrator. That means you have complete privilege upon all the resources, all the resource groups. Everything you have a control over it. So you can build your own VM, or you can build your own database, or you can build your own data factories. Everything, logic apps, everything will be possible because you are the service administrator. Once if you go to home, right, here, if you don't see something called resource group here, just type it, or if you go to all services on the left side pane, you can search for it. Before anything we start to do, we should have a resource group. For example, if I'm a developer, I should belong to a particular group where I can do all my development, right? So it's kind of a workspace where I can do my own work. So for that, since we are creating our own account, we can create our own resource group. In the real-time world, these things will be taken care by the Azure administrator. There will be n number of resource group, and you will be allocated to any one, like development or testing or data kind of activities that we are doing. So for now, I have created a resource group. If you want to create a resource group, click on the add here, and in the subscription, we will be selecting the enterprise. There is no other license that will be available. Since it is an enterprise license, we need to select the enterprise subscription. And upon the resource group, since this is a first time resource group, we just need to select the resource group.
One important thing when you do here is this region. Okay, so click on the region. So there are several regions worldwide. Okay, so US region, Southeast Asia, and all. You have, for some of the applications, right? Microsoft restricts that the resources should be available in the same region.
Yes.
Okay, so you have to be careful of selecting the regions. Many of the features they would release first in the US region, and then suppose you have one logic app created in the US region. When I started doing logic apps, I was not able to see the logic app which I created in the India region. Okay, so you have to ensure that that region is an important thing for the visibility of your Azure resources.
Yeah. So in addition to that, Joy, I just want to give one more update, right? When you create this resource group, you will have different regions, and if you select or if you create based on the region, the billing will be as per to that region. If I was from US, I will be charged according to the dollars, and if I was on India, I will be charged according to the rupees. So for now, let's select any of the US region and then try to create it. So it will validate and it will let us know whether the name with the resource group is available or not. So once we review it, the validation is passed so that we can create a resource group with ADF test.
Yeah. So another thing here is, unless it is very important, like your performance, right? If your servers are going to be, you are going to connect with an on-premise server with Azure, right? And your on-premise server is in Europe, things like that, right? You will choose the region. For most of the cases where it is very simple, like your demo and your learning, I would put at US, okay, so that everything is there. What happens when I was trying to do some POC is that I selected India, and then that feature was not available here. And when I installed the gateway, they could not connect. A lot of troubles was there. So unless it is crucial for you to select a particular region like Southeast Asia or Europe or something, right? Try to use US itself, okay? Unless it is very important for the data to be transmitted between on-premise server and your Azure. So when you do in projects, right, you have to ensure, you have to ask your clients properly about customers regarding what would be the best choice for the region. If they are setting up a completely new one, okay. If you are working on something which is already set up, you can't do much. But if you are creating one resource for the first time, make sure you ask the right question, where it should be located.
Yes. Okay. And it should be available for them as well. For suppose if I create it in the South India, and if the client cannot access this resource group, then there will be of no use of creating it.
Yeah, maybe in the future, Microsoft will allow, cross-region, accessing. But many times I see that problem, after building everything, you go, oh, they are in different regions. Now I cannot access.
Yes.
Then go from the top again, right? You rewind again. So instead of that, have a knowledge that region plays an important role in accessibility and speed of data transfer and things like that, because the data centers are going to be in that region. Okay.
Yes.
So unless it is crucially important for you to choose India or Europe, always prefer US, not America. That would be the best choice. You will not have to rework or spend more time doing all those things. Okay.
Yes, and the chances of getting failures or issues will be less when we select US region when compared to other regions. Since it is the main location for Microsoft, all their servers will be available there.
Yeah, their priority is that location region first.
Yes. So I have created it, but I cannot see it here. So just refresh it. I can see it. So my resource group has been created and it is located in the central US. Now, after creating the resource group, just click on it and you can see number of options that are available. Like there is a access control management, which will particularly provide access to a particular resource groups, like particularly for some resources who are distributed across different regions. For example, if this is located in US and I was about to do a project in US, so they have to provide access to their resource group first. So that access they will be providing by giving my email ID here, and then they will assign the role, like which role should I be. I also told, right, if I want to create the Azure Data Factory, I should be a contributor role. So if you see in the roles, there are n number of roles that are available, like owner, contributor, reader, and application reader. Everything will be available. Apart from this, we also do have Data Factory. I think we do have one Data Factory. Yeah, see, you can have a role like Data Factory contributor, or if you are working on database analytics, you will be having a database analytics developer. No one will be provided all these roles, because until if he was tend to work in different streams, and if he has control over the applications and all. So once the resources are being created, now if I go to home, I can see a resource group here, and after availability of the resource group, if I want to create a database, I can go here. I can create a new database. If this pane is not available, just go for all services here, and then search for database here. Now you can see different types of databases that are available. So for now, I will be selecting Azure database. So before creating database, we all know, like, we should have one server that to be available to deploy this database. So once I select the resource group, ADF test and database, I will be creating a sample database. So this sample database should have one server to host. So if for now, many of you people will not have these servers, just go ahead and create a new server. While creating the server, give the server name along with login name, password. This login name and password, it should be rememberable, because without these two, you cannot log into that database. So let me give a server I will be creating a new server here. I give the server name as ADF server 2 and login name as Manas, and password something like I remember. Oh, my name is server 2. And the location as well, the server where you want to host that. So I will be selecting US, because my resource group also is from US. I will be selecting the location as US here also. So after creating it, the server has been created, and now this database we can create it. So while creating the database, it will ask for the different sets. So in the networking, it will ask for the connectivity method. This is like a public end-to-end point or private end-to-end point. This is very important, because some clients will never allow you to host their databases publicly. They should be they want their database to be very secure. So in that ways, you should select the private endpoints, and in that private endpoints also you should create a private endpoint along with virtual VPN. that part, I think it will be too much to take in now for our tryouts. So let's select the connectivity method for now as none, and then create it. Just review and create it. Here you can see, right, this is the amount which they are costing for us. Here in Azure, everything is cost. No, nothing is free. Nothing is for free. Everything is cost. So all the resources which you are creating should be, rememberable and accountable. Like if they want to have that amount or not. For now, I will be selecting it, and I will create it. So you can see that deployment is been happening along with that server. First, the server is being created, and later our own database that's been deployed to that server. Both of them are, creating for us. You can see these resources once they are available here. So this is a server first they are creating. Apart from that, they are creating a storage account for storing the data in the blob. It will take for a while because both are being created, right? So I think the server is created now. It will create the database. So this is a database which it is creating. So meanwhile, anyone has any questions when it is creating? Hello.
Actually, I would recommend everybody to have some hands-on on this. The reason is unless you face a problem doing here, you will not be having questions. Okay, so when you try it out, you will know. Okay, so the subscription is there for everybody. You should try it out. And actually, we are wasting money, every month by
Yes,
not
yes.
it.
So the deployment is completed, and now my database is available for me to just go ahead and then do the tryouts. So when I go to home, right, if I go to my resource group, I can see a database here, right, SQL Server and SQL database. This is a server and this is a database along with the storage account, which it is created under ADF test. So when I just open my database here, right, and if I just want to see before you want to do the tryouts, I will let everyone see how it will not allow us if we don't set the firewall. So if we after going to the SQL database, right, here you can see something called query editor, which by default Microsoft is allowing us to do the queries in the online without having the SSMS preferably. So when I just want to log in here, so now See, as I said, right, it will not allow you until you set the client. For example, if I am a user, I want to connect to the database, I should set my IP should be allowed in order to connect to the database. Without providing my IP config, it will never allow for me to connect here. So you can see the IP address of this is not allowed to access the server. To enable this, I should provide this IP as part of firewall. Copying it here, and if you go to the overview right here, so something you can see like set server firewall. If you click on it, you can see as of now there are no client IP addresses here. But if I want to add it here, let me add it here. Okay. And this IP which I provided, right, 164.55 and 164.55. If it is not dynamic IP, then it is. If it is static, if it is not dynamic, for sure you can give it. But if you are not sure, every time it's been dynamic IP and you are not aware of how to connect and all. If you provide it one time, it will it may change next time and you will not be able to access here. So that I would prefer to give as 00 to 255 to 255. This is because the IP ranges which followed between 00 to 255 for sure they will be available, because this first two IPs will never change for any organization. The last two will be the dynamic one because they keeps on changing. So once you set it, save it, the firewall rule has set. Now you will be provided access to the database query editor. Now I was being provided access and I can see something here. So for now, since I created it newly, I don't have any tables that are available. Let me quickly create a table and then copy or create the values. So this is the ADF tryout table which I was creating, and then if I click on run, my table is being created, and if I select this, I created affected rows is 2. That means 2 records are being inserted, and if I select it, I can see the trial and test records are being created. Once this part, I think many of us know. So since there is no chance for us to have the SSMS, we can directly use this query editor for us to do the manipulations or building up queries for our requirements. If you want to create a new query, just create on the new query. You will be provided with one more, same like the SSMS thing. But the changing between databases, it is not possible as part of the online version. We can on premise, like if we use the SSMS, we can say like use database name. But in online version, we need to go to a particular database and then do these operations. So after creating that after creating the resource group, now I just want to store my username and password. If I don't remember, and if my application wants to use the server with the username and password, I should provide it. But providing username and password directly in the connection is a risky, because there are chances of chances of revealing the password to the people who are working on it. So instead of that, I just want to create a key vault. One second. Key vaults. For now, I don't have any key vault. Just me quickly create one key vault. So it is also under subscription. I should select a particular resource group and key vault name. And the pricing and everything that you can keep it, and then access policies. In the access policies, you should think of enabling it to access to different things. This Azure Resource Manager, this part I will be telling finally, and for now just enable the top two ones. This virtual machine thing, if you set up a virtual machine and if you want to access through virtual machines, then for that access you should provide it. And apart from that, this Azure Resource Manager which is coming up, I will finally tell you why this Resource Manager or what's its functionality and all. So for now, just enable these two, and then my user will have the key permissions for all these keys, like get, list, update, create, import, recovery and all. Apart from this, I can also encrypt, decrypt and verify. Everything will be provided for me. By default, this is providing, right? So let's select these things. And the secret permissions also, it will be the same. And certificate permissions will be like set certificate and get certificate authorized. These things also will be validated when I am using the key vault. So once this is set, just review it and create it. So validation is passed, and then I can create it. I'm just creating a new key vault here. If you want to see whether it is being deployed or not, in the notifications menu, you can see it here, like it's been submitting, deploying and all. Now my Azure Key Vault is under deployment. So now my Azure Key Vault is deployed, and if I go to the resource, right, this is one of the important thing that everyone should be aware of. After creating the key vault, right, you should go to the secrets. This secrets part is very important because this is the place where we all will have to store, or will be available if there are any existing projects. For now, I will be creating the SQL authentication password here. So for now, I will create it. This content type is nothing but the comments for us to just remember for which password it is. And you can also set the activation and expiry date. If you want to keep that password completely alive for every time, just don't select these two and then click on create. Now this password has been created. My SQL password is created, and if I want to see it, this version, right? This version, it will be available if I create a new password on top of this. The new version will be added here for the same thing. And if I open it, I can see it, like show secret value. If I show the secret value, like this is the password which I have given it in the Azure database. So I just want to hide it. And since we are using through Azure Key Vault, we should provide this this secret name. As SQL password is there, right? This is a secret name. This secret we should be providing in the applications wherever we use, if we want to use this password, so that it will fetch the value which is available from the secret. This secret value. This will be fetched from that Key Vault. So after creating the Key Vault, now let's start using Azure Data Factory. 1 second. So the Key Vault is also ready. Now I just want to create the Data Factory. So just add a new one. Click on Azure Data Factory. Oh, sorry. No.
So Manas, what's your idea about the session timings? Whether it will go more than half an hour or it will be because we don't want to push. We don't want to rush it.
Maybe Joy can answer that. If everyone are comfortable, then I can continue, or else we can stop the session now and then we can proceed.
No.
In the next session.
First, you can tell how much time it will take to maybe if it is going to be
maybe,
5 minutes,
yeah.
that is fine. But if it is half an hour, then we need to see, right? That's all.
I think the main thing has not started, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the Azure Data Factory part has not started. It is a good thing, we don't want to jump into Azure Data Factory without knowing how to do all this Azure setups, okay? Because all of us are new in this Azure. So this is a good step. Let this be the primer. Next week, probably next session, we'll do the real one, okay? So let's stop it here. Maybe it's already 1 hour. So,
and also my recommendation is that it's better now we know how to create everything, right? So everyone, if we have in the same page, like whatever Manas did, if they created everything, and if any questions also they can ask in the next session, so that everyone will be in the same page. That's what I can recommend everyone to create the same kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. That is a good suggestion. Everybody should, they have their subscription. Whatever has been kind of demoed, this is being recorded. If you miss certain points also, you can go to the recording and see the steps what Manas has done. And then everybody should be able to create and then activate Azure, create these regions, right? And all these things what he has demoed, probably you should do that. And then whatever is the important, the real thing, Azure Data Factory, Manas, let's do that one in the next session, okay?
Sure, Jay. So for now, since we have 5 more minutes, I think just let me cover how actually we create the data factory, so everyone will be familiar with until here. So they can, if they want to do some tryouts and all, then they can do by their own.
Yeah, please continue.
So okay, fine. So in the top resources, right, just select for data factories. You can see something here. So just click on it. I have one for my demo, but I just want to select with different resource group. So just add a new one, and in the data factory, just give the name. And this version, Microsoft has until now Microsoft has provided with 2 different versions. One is version 1, one is version 2. So version 1 is the old version which is available between 2013 to 2016. But recently there have been a lot of changes in the data factory and they are pushing everything newly. So version 2 is the latest one. So once everyone should select version 2, and under the subscription, as everyone knows, it should be enterprise, and in the resource group select ADF test, because this is a new resource group which we are creating, and the location as usual select this is one important thing. So if you are having a project already, I mean, if you're having a Git setup, you can provide the Git libraries here by providing the URL, repository name, branch name, root folder and all. If you don't have it, just leave it, just uncheck it and then create it. One second, I think the name is already available. Try out. Yes, and now it is available for me to create it. So the deployment is on the way. Like it, no, the data factory is being creating for you. Yes, deployment is completed and my data factory is available as part of that resource group. So if I go and refresh it here, is it deployed? Okay. Okay. Edif test, right? Okay. 1 second. Edif test is a resource group. I think somehow for some reasons it should be available here. For some yes. So now it is available here. So if you click on it, you can see one page here. This is a landing page, and if everyone, if they want to do the development, just go here. Like there is something called author and monitor. Everyone has to go click it here, and it will open the real data factory where it will where we actually do like package kind of thing. It will be opening the landing page and the author and monitor. This author is the place where we will do the all the pipelines, data sets, data flows, and linked connections, which I was presenting in the PPT. And this monitor is something like deployment jobs to run it real time and all. So for now, I will be stopping it here. In the next session, maybe we can have the creation of pipelines, data sets, and data flows.
Yeah, thank you, Manas. This is really, really good. I wasn't expecting this much detail, but this is really good. I think everybody should leverage this session and then try to have a hands-on on the Azure subscriptions. Okay, and then create SQL Server, create VM, create a database, create a key vault, how to store the secrets and things like that. So please practice this. You have 2 weeks to practice. I think everybody should be able to make use of that time and then come up with some questions if you have. And the next session, yes, Manas will continue on the real one, the Azure Data Factory. Okay. So yeah, thank you for your time, guys. Thomas, please, record, please upload this recorded session and then share with the team.